Welcome everyone to another coffee tasting. I'm your host, Aaron. Today we are tasting a special coffee. It is a locally roasted coffee. Uh, I actually purchased this coffee at the Bluebird Coffee House at downtown Palm Springs, and it is located in the Lighthouse courtyard. Super cool small business that we have here in downtown Palm Springs. Really nice little outdoor vibes, got a nice little patio. And then the extra cool part about this small coffee shop that I am featuring today is the coffee that they feature at their coffee shop. So the coffee that they feature there is a coffee that is locally roasted here in the high desert, and so this is going to be a coffee roasted by Joshua Tree Coffee Co. Really cool because it's a local business that sources their beans from small lot coffees and distinct regions of the world, and they make sure that the beans that they're getting are 100% organic. And then they roast it there. And so today we are tasting the first blend. So the first blend is pretty much like their French roast, which is kind of like where the it's first French kind of come together a little bit. And this is a three region blend, and with this first blend we're getting Honduras, Colombia, and Ethiopia. So with those Honduras and Colombian coffee mixture in there, we're gonna get some more of those like nutty and sweet caramel notes. And with that Ethiopia, we're gonna get a little bit of that bright citrusy flavor. And then this is a dark roasted coffee, so we're gonna get a lot more of those roasted bitter flavors that are gonna come forward in this particular cup of coffee. So if you guys are joining for this first time, welcome. On this channel, we like to brew the coffee three different ways. The reason why we brew our coffee three different ways is because we like to explore the different flavor notes that you get from the same cup of coffee, but from the different brew methods that you explore. And the reason why this is because the different amount of sediments and the different amount of oils is going to impact the flavor of the coffee. And so that is very important. We want to be able to explore the different flavors so that we can really determine uh, those flavors that really come out, and then really get a feel for that particular cup of coffee, because you might have had an exceptional cup of coffee, but you probably didn't like that brew method. So by exploring different brew methods, you might find that you like that cup of coffee brewed differently than ways you particularly brew your coffee. So if you guys are new to the channel, I would appreciate it if you guys hit that like and subscribe button down below. That helps me make this channel that much more better, allows me to add more content, create more content, and add more features as well. And then if you guys are returning and haven't had a chance to hit that like and subscribe button, please hit that like and subscribe button, because I can make this channel that much more better for you guys, provide more content, and do more things. So thank you guys for joining me in today's coffee tasting. I am really excited to try this coffee. This is one of the ones that I have been anticipating for several weeks to try, just because it's a locally roasted coffee. You know, really want to support those local businesses. And so not only am I, we're supporting this local Bluebird Coffee Shop downtown Palm Springs, but we're also supporting a local coffee roasting company that is local to Joshua Tree, which is the high desert, which is 45 minutes from here. So I still consider it fairly local. So super awesome, you guys. This 100% small businesses. We're gonna learn a little bit about Joshua Tree Coffee Company here in just a moment. So with the three different brewing methods that we're doing here, we're going to get a little bit of different flavors. So with the pour over, we get a little bit more of those citrusy notes because the bitters from the sediments are being really held back from the paper filter. So we're going to get a lot of those more bright citrusy notes. So that Ethiopian flavor is going to really come through in this cup of coffee, and we're going to explore those bright notes that this coffee has to offer. With the Chemex we're getting a triple paper filter, and so with this we're getting slightly coarser grind, a little bit more grinds, but we're also getting more water. And then there's a triple filter on this side. So we have three paper, and then the material of this filter is a little bit thicker as well than the pour over filter. So what that's going to do is that's going to allow the filter to absorb a little bit more of the oils that passes through, dying down some of that citrusy flavor that we would get in the pour over. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a little bit more of a balanced cup of coffee. So with the pour over, we get a little bit more of those citrus notes. With the Chemex, we're going to get a little bit more of a balanced cup. And then with the French press, it's a full immersion cup of coffee, really, really coarse grind. So we're going to get a lot more of those sediments and a lot more of those oils. But because we're getting a lot more of those sediments, it's going to really balance out and bring those Latin American like caramel and milk chocolate notes forward to really meet those bright notes that you're going to see in the pour over cup of coffee. So when you brew pour overs and Chemex cups of coffees, you want to pour just a little bit of water at the very beginning, kind of get all the grounds wet, and then let your coffee bloom. And what blooming does is it allows the air that's in between the grinds to release and rise to the surface. And this is important because if you don't allow your grinds or the air to rise to the surface, there becomes a pocket of air at the bottom that gets pushed down, and it creates a barrier over steeping your coffee. And that can impact the flavor of your coffee, making for an undesirable flavor. It might come out too bitter. In a pour over situation, you might have like a coffee that's too acidic. The flavors are too bright, and that's because the steeping process is taking too long. So you'll know if your bloom is properly. You get like just a couple bubbles rising to the surface. Also, sometimes you get some really cool bloom effects where the air rises evenly to the top, so you kind of get like this nice like dome bloom, which is really cool. And then when you pour your next batch of water, the water piercing the dome kind of allows the air to escape. But that is why you want to bloom your coffee, is to allow that air that gets in between your grinds to really escape, so that you're not creating a barrier and accidentally over steeping your coffee and making yourself experience unpleasant flavor. So proportion, grind, freshness, and process is very important in your brewing. You want to make sure that you're properly brewing your coffee, making sure that you're going through your steps, making sure that you're doing the proper amount of water. I have my water pre-weighed out over here so that I know that when I'm adding my water, it's the right amount. And so that is very important, you guys, making sure that you get your grind, your proportion, and your freshness, and the making sure that you're brewing properly as well. So with a pour over and a Chemex, you want to make your coffee bloom, which allows the air to rise to the surface and escape, so that you're not creating an air bubble at the bottom, creating like this this block, slowing down the brew process. So very, very important, you guys, to making sure that you guys can brew the highest quality cup of coffee at home. 100% important. And another reason why that's important too is because you're really honoring the people who grow the coffee when we brew our coffee correctly, because we're getting those flavors that are intended by the growers. All right, so while we wait for the Chemex and the French press to finish brewing, we're going to go ahead and taste the pour over. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and smell the coffee. Ooh, that smells really, really smooth. We're getting a lot of those nutty notes with like a smooth milk chocolate notes as well. So we're getting like a little bit of a roasty spice. Um, almost like a It's very interesting because we have like the Honduras coffee and the Colombian coffee, which are both gonna have like those nutty caramel milk chocolate characteristics. Sometimes a little bit of a spice. So I think we're getting a little bit of that spice from the Honduras coffee, and then with that bright citrusy flavor, um, it's coming out really nice and balanced. It's a very smooth, complex cup of coffee. It's definitely got that like bold, spicy flavor that you would expect from a French roast, but I would say the bitter notes that you get from a traditional French roast is a lot more intense. So this is a much smoother typical French roast, I would say. Really good cup of coffee. Nice bright roasty notes with a nice like nutty milk chocolate finish. I really like that. That's really good. All right, so let's plunge our French press, and then we're going to taste the Chemex. So with the pour over, we're gonna get a lot more of those bright notes, and then with the Chemex, we're going to get less of those bright notes, and though because we're getting less of those bright notes, those bitter notes are gonna really come forward. So we're gonna taste a little bit more of um, those nutty caramely notes that we get from that Colombian coffee. So with the smell of the Chemex, we're getting a very similar smell to the pour over, except the nutty and milk chocolate notes are definitely coming forward a little bit more than the spice notes, those bright notes that we smelled a little bit on the pour over. Really good. Oh yeah. So with this, we're definitely getting a lot more of those. I would almost say it's like a hazelnut flavor that we're getting on this particular cup of coffee with like a slight milk chocolate finish, and then we're just getting a slight roasty flavor on the Chemex, and that slight roasty flavor actually complements the hazelnut that we're getting in this one. Really good. That is a good cup of coffee. I like that because the what we're getting right away is that those nutty flavors with that bright roastiness complement almost gives us a roasted hazelnut flavor, and then we're left with a milk chocolate finish, which is typical to like a Latin American coffee. So this is a really smooth French roast cup of coffee, or what the Joshua Tree Co. calls their first roast. Excellent. That is really good. What's nice is we don't have like an intense aftermouth feel. Once we let the palate clear, we just have like that nice, smooth milk chocolate bitter mouth feel that we have on the center, towards the center of our tongue. But it's very subtle, not too intense. Very easy to deal with. I like it. It's very pleasant. It has adds a lot of complexity to our cup, but is not overwhelming to the flavor to where you need to pair it with anything, or you don't need to add sugar or cream. So if you like a nice, smooth, dark roast cup of coffee, Joshua Tree's Coffee Co. The first roast is really good, you guys. Really good. So now we're going to try the French press. Ooh, poured that a little quick. Didn't even spill. That was good. All right, so with the French press, we're getting more sediments and we're getting more oils, and that's going to impact the flavor. We're going to get much more of those nutty milk chocolate flavors, alongside with those bright citrusy or bright spicy notes in this case, or bright roasty notes. So we have bright roasty notes with the nutty and milk chocolate finish. Wow. Okay. So with the French press, we're really getting that heavy milk chocolate flavor. Really good. Those milk chocolate notes really come forward. And then we're hit with a little bit of that hazelnut and a slight roasty flavor, but it's primarily those bold those bold milk chocolate notes that we're getting, which is nice. It's a really smooth milk chocolate flavor that has a boldness to it, and then it's as it washes away, you start to get those hazelnut roasty notes, but it's very subtle. It's really nice. Makes for a very very smooth cup of coffee. Again, the French press surprises me. Another week. Again, the French press proves to be my favorite brew process. While all this time I figured like the pour, like just a single cup pour over would be my favorite. But most of the time with the pour overs, we get too much of those bright citrusy notes or those bright roasty notes or the bright floral notes, and I tend to a, lean away from those bright notes and lean more towards those bitter milk chocolate nutty notes. And so for me, the French press stands out almost every time. There's been a select few where the pour over has been really really good, where I've chosen the pour over the French press. But for the most part, the French press tends to stand out for me. So if you guys have a particular favorite brew process that you guys like, go ahead and throw that down in the chat. I'd love to hear your guys' favorite brew process. If you guys have a favorite brew process that I don't feature on this channel, go ahead and throw that down in the chat as well. I'd love to possibly explore that brew method on my channel, maybe learn a little bit about coffee that I haven't explored myself from you guys. You know, as I share my knowledge with you guys can share your knowledge with me. You know, we learn from each other, and so that's what's important about these coffee tastings. You know, just sharing our knowledge and being able to share our passion for coffee. Super cool. So this is the first roast by Joshua Tree Coffee Company, a small business local to the Coachella Valley. So if you guys want to check them out, I definitely encourage you guys to check them out. If you guys are visiting Palm Springs, check out the Bluebird Coffee Shop downtown Palm Springs in the Lighthouse courtyard. Definitely got to check that out. Nice, cool little vibes. Grab a cup of coffee, sit on their patio, enjoy the nice Palm Springs weather, and yeah, support your local small business and help the small businesses thrive. Even if it's taking one day out of your normal day of your routine of going to that normal place and just making a stop by the local coffee shop and just showing your support for the local business. So I hope I inspired you guys to visit the Joshua Tree Coffee Co. So with this particular cup of coffee, this is a blend between three different cups or three different blends of beans. The blends that we have in this coffee is Colombia, Honduras, and Ethiopia. And so with this channel, I really like to talk about like the culture and the history of the coffee and like where it comes from. And so I really wanted to talk about Honduras and Colombia and how coffee shaped the culture of these particular regions and how it really became a main staple for their economy and just like helping the farmers create a sustainable living and start to see those wages um, like a fair wage that they wouldn't normally see without the coffee farms. So we have especially with Honduras in the 1970s, it was a very rated one of the world's dangerous places to live, and so you have like a lot of people that are subject to forced labor or even cheap labor, um, because of like the local cartels and drug rings and stuff like that. And so you have like almost this entire community that's enthralled to this way of living and not knowing another lifestyle. And when you have an entire community that is pretty much all being forced into labor or forced into cheap labor, uh, and they don't know that they don't know what a normal wage looks like. So what they're being forced into is normal to them. And so when you have this normal people or this normal people not tend to not to rebel back. But as coffee started to make its way into the area of Honduras and other local regions of this area of the world, you have coffee plantations that are starting to grow coffee and are ethically sourcing their beans to companies in North America and other parts of the world. And when you get these ethically sourced beans and people are being properly paid the wage that they need to be paid, you have farmers in areas of the world like Honduras who are starting to see what a fair wage actually looks like. And this is super important because when you have farmers in an area of the world starting to gain a fair wage in an area where people don't know what a fair wage looks like, and then they start, the community talks to each other, they interact. And so when you have this farmer who's making $6 versus a farmer who's making 25 cents an hour, um, the 25 cents an hour farmer starts to get curious on how this other farmer is making $6 an hour or whatever their fair wage is, because of ethical farming and or ethical sourcing. And so when farmers and other people in this area of the world start to learn what a fair wage looks like and not what they've been told a fair wage looks like by their employers, um, they start to get that option of being able to choose the wage that they want, because they have someone over here who's showing them who their true worth is, by having that particular wage. Um, and so what this does is it really opens up the eyes of the locals of Honduras and allows them to make that choice of being able to transition to different farms, and employ elsewhere to gain that fair wage, or even demand a fair wage in their current employment, or demand higher wages, just because they're starting to see what a fair wage actually looks like. And so that's what coffee is doing for the people of Honduras, is really revitalizing their economy, bringing money in from outside to the actual people and not the drug cartels. So it's helping the community rebuild for the people, and then allowing the people to have that fair wage so that they can create a sustainable lifestyle for themselves and the community that they live in, just to help build the community and make their community a better place to live in. And so that's very important. Although a lot of other things are going on, especially in Honduras with like elections and stuff. So it's been rough. It's been rough all over the world. But to this day, farmers are still growing coffee and growing and creating a sustainable livelihood by growing coffee. And that's important because we want to encourage this growth and give back to the community so that these communities aren't a dangerous place to live in, and so that they can create a place where they can call home and live and thrive and have that community that they can connect with and give back to and not have to um, hide from like local um, drug rings and cartels and corrupt government and other things like that. And so coffee plays that big of a part and role in shaping the community of these people and helping them thrive, and rebuilding their community and economy as well. So uh, coffee plays a major important role in the economy of many communities around the world, um, because you have a lot of communities who relied on sugar exports and other exports of other fruits that are becoming increasingly easier to grow in other parts of the world, due to people implying science into growing crops so that it making it allowing us to grow certain things in different parts of the world where they weren't available to grow. So with that, you have less importing and exports from specific parts of the world, and so you have farmers, especially in Latin America, and then you also see it in like Hawaii, where the demand for certain types of crops start to go down, and so farmers aren't able to sell their entire crops, or they're not even able to sell any of their crop because there's just no demand for it. And so with coffee, with the increasing demand for coffee in the 1980s, you have a lot of farmers that start to switch to coffee farming. And that's important because with the increasing demand of coffee, you see coffee correlating to a lot of economic growth, um, in like especially in the Latin American communities, that ability to create that sustainability for their livelihoods. Coffee plays a major important role in the development of all different parts of our communities, and in all different parts of the world. And so I hope I inspired you guys to really support the local business. If you guys are in Palm Springs, go ahead and visit the Bluebird Coffee Shop downtown Palm Springs at the Lighthouse courtyard. And then try the Joshua Tree Coffee Co. locally roasted beans. The first roast is really, really good, you guys. I definitely suggest trying that if you guys stop by. Join me this Friday as we try the Papua New Guinea Ulia. And if you guys enjoyed today's coffee tasting, go ahead and hit the link down below. That is going to be a list of videos that I have done in the past. The link above is just a video that YouTube thinks that you might like. Have a great day, you guys, and I will see you this Friday for Papua New Guinea Ulia.